What's going on, Jeromes? It is a Monday. Thank you, everyone who submitted questions. I know it certainly was not the result that you wanted, and there was a lot of bad, but there was some good, everything in between. Let's fire up some Q&A. Thank you, everyone who submitted questions. Let's go. I feel like we're getting better at Q&As. So there you go. First up, Forrest Jones. Josh Allen looked like this for 2 years. Talk about in reference to JJ McCarthy. I guarantee fans are trying to run him out of town, and what a mistake that would have been. JJ is 22, and he's a savage. He's going to improve on every single deficiency he has. Now, obviously, Josh Allen has rounded into form, become league MVP, and basically he's everything for the Bills. And maybe they rely on him a little bit too much, but especially after his 3-3 game, things were pretty good. But Josh Allen's first 2 years in the league, he was hovering around 55% completion percentage. He had 30 touchdowns. He had 21 picks. Quarterback rating during that time was in 70s, high 70s, somewhere in there, over the first 2 years. And that's basically, we say McCarthy needs 20, 25, 30 starts. And the first 2 seasons, Allen had 28 starts. He also ran for almost 1,000 yards over those 2 years, putting up 17 touchdowns. So I feel like that's an aspect of his game which is kind of different than McCarthy right now. But in terms of arm, in terms of, people forget Josh Allen was the most polarizing draft prospect in a long time, right? Coming from Wyoming, small school, and you're wondering if his style would translate, and it certainly did, right? And I do think that McCarthy has some Josh Allen to him, and I feel like his running ability certainly could be there. Maybe not as hell for leather as Allen is obviously larger, but, well, physically size. But also Allen really was scattershot those first couple of seasons, and he still can be at times, but things have calmed down, things have slowed down, and for me, McCarthy, obviously, first 5 games, there's been some great moments, there's been some questionable moments. He's hovering around 52.9% completion percent right now. Did run in 2 touchdowns during the 2 road wins in division, and obviously we've brought this up too, but I feel like you can torture yourself a little bit where every time McCarthy does something good, it's great. Every time McCarthy does something bad, we go to the stats of, Peyton Manning led the league in interceptions as a rookie. Oh, what about Josh Allen? Oh, this, oh, that. That's true. That's fair. But also there's a lot of quarterbacks who started bad and ended up bad. Now, I do not think that's going to be McCarthy, and I feel like someday he is going to ascend the heights and be in the conversation of league MVP and bring the Vikings dozen run bars in the next 10 years. But it's going to take time. And again, Vikings fans, they just aren't accustomed to breaking in a homegrown quarterback. This whole season, win, lose, or draw, it's about developing McCarthy, putting in time and getting those reps. Plus, as we said, like McCarthy's 22. And people look at last year as a redshirt season as like lost time, so that you're panicking, you're trying to make time up. But, Penix and Nix came in the league at 24, right? 23, 24. And basically just read as McCarthy. Oh, McCarthy went back to Michigan for a senior season. So this is his first year. Sort of treat it as that. Yeah. Also, somebody should treat yourself. Very friggin' early Black Friday sale, 50% off everything in the store. If you use promo code JINGLE through November 26th, purpleftw.net. A link is in description. Bruce Alley, Rockstar. Absolute, man. Next up, Cato. Is it just me, or has KOC play calling gotten worse and worse? Although Caleb Williams didn't have a big game, felt like Ben Johnson was a much better play caller today. So, I don't think... No, I actually feel like it's the opposite. I feel like Kevin O'Connell has gotten better from earlier in the season, where, the Vikings had a lot of injuries, so that there was a little bit of unevenness there. The main criticism for McCarthy for Kevin O'Connell is that not running the ball, right? Getting away from the run game, especially when you were gashing the Bears, man. And Jordan Mason imposing his will, Aaron Jones ripping up chunk yardage. It's kind of tough, man. And I understand, like, McCarthy, it's his golden boy and wants to show him off. But we made the analogy earlier where it's like, if you don't want your dog to eat table scraps, stop putting table scraps in front of him. And with McCarthy, if you want to keep him out of some of those low percentage downfield throws, don't have them dialed in. Have easier high percentage reads higher in the progression, right? So I don't know, like even if McCarthy is making those easy throws, sometimes they're erratic, and that's on him. And also, just stepping back dispassionately and watching the game over again, like on some of the throws that McCarthy missed, Kevin O'Connell did a really good job calling the play, getting the right defense, and those receivers were wide open, right? So I feel like it's just a matter of time until this thing like really clicks on all cylinders. And like we said, it's been like a bit of whack-a-mole. Like sometimes the defense is bad, sometimes the defense is really good, sometimes special teams is bad, mostly special teams is bad, offense good, offense bad, offense, but just never at the same time, right? But I feel like this offense will eventually all get on the same page. Now, it may be too late for this year, but it's some really good momentum going into next season. Right? I know people don't want to hear that, but Cello, Charlie, Andy, love the show. Ooh, like Andy, A-N-D-I-E, like Andy McDowell. What are your thoughts on Chris Cooper? The O-line has been asked, thank you, since he arrived. Former Vikings O-linemen have flourished in other systems. When will we stop blaming the players and start holding the coaches accountable? But that's a fair point, because you look at Ed Ingram doing the damn thing with the Texans, looking really good basically immediately. Ed Ingram's the best offensive line for the Texans. Not saying much because the Texans O-line is bad, but Ed Ingram's look pretty good. Garrett Bradbury is holding things down as the pivot man for the Patriots, and Drake May. All right, so those guys immediately leave, even though they had issues here the last couple of seasons. That does point towards coaching, right? And you make a good point too. Like everyone blames Quace, is like, oh, a second round pick on Ed Ingram. Oh, this, oh that, but at a certain point, it comes down to, if these draft picks aren't developing, is that on the player? Is that on coaching? Is that on talent scouting? At a certain point, it does come down to, can these coaches make things work? And what's really frustrating is that when the Vikings O-line were having all these injury issues early in the season, you look at the Rams, you looked at the Lions, you looked at other teams that had offensive line injuries, but the backups were ready to go. And they fought the good fight, and frankly, they did really well, even with a banged-up MASH unit. And the Vikings' offensive line just didn't have it, And you look at Justin School, you look at Juergens, you look at backups that had to step in and just didn't have it. Now, is that on the player or is that on coaching? Who knows, man? But the offensive line, frankly, has looked really good the last couple weeks. Will it be enough to save Cooper's job? Don't know. But, yeah, the offensive line has been a point of contention over the Kevin O'Connell tenure, which Chris Cooper has been here all 4 years now. So change could happen in this offseason. Also, Coach Hat, Matt Daniels. Yeah. Carl Gerbschmidt, SR. Why on earth would you ever take the ball first at home? The crowd is fired up. Now you're asking them to be silent. The advantage is, especially after all the false starts against the Ravens, the advantage is to the defensive team early in the game, and you lose any ability to score at the end of the half, then immediately score at the beginning of the second half when you get the ball after you defer. Point and sandwich. Of course, the Vikings didn't score on drive one, and you lost all advantage of winning the coin toss. This can only be done on the road, but shouldn't be done at all. Thoughts? Close games make potential back-to-back possessions so valuable. Yeah, and it's a fair point. I was really confused when the Vikings chose to take the ball first. Like, maybe they're hoping, okay, we got some good scripted plays. We really like what Kevin O'Connell did mention, that McCarthy had 2 great days of practice. Maybe psychologically he just wanted to go down, stuff one in the end zone offensively. And, Kevin O'Connell being an offensive guy, that's going to be his MO. But you're right? It's very odd not to win the toss, or it's very odd to win the toss and not defer. Right? So obviously that didn't work out, and I don't know, just like it actually did the opposite. Instead of getting the crowd into the game, I felt like when the Vikings failed to do anything on that first drive, that really kind of set the tone for the day and sort of deflated the crowd a little bit. The Boo Birds came out in the mid-game, which they deserve, by the way. So, I don't know. Next. Noel MW, what do you think comes next for the Vikings? How does the team get out of this hole, both now and eventually in the offseason? Well, first off, ideally, you're going to get some traction, go make a run at this mofo, right? We got 7 games left, 2 on the road, 2 tough ones on the road in a row, Green Bay, Seattle, Washington, Commies at home, and then at Dallas, Sunday Night Football, and then you're at the Giants, Jameis probably, and then 2 at home. In division. So Vikings aren't out of it, but it's going to be tough. Like the margin for error has completely eroded after the Ravens and the Bears loss. But also, if it's not meant to be a playoff year, it's not meant to be, right? And prime directive number 1, see what you got, McCarthy, right? See if you have confidence in him hitting those layups and having some stability and some consistency, right? And also, hate to compare us to the damn Lions, right? But the 2022 Lions, so they started out 1-6, right? And Dan Campbell was on the hot seat, just took over plays from Anthony Lynn, I believe, handed over to some jabroni named Ben Johnson, and eventually, they start out 1-6. Eventually, they flip things around. They went 8-2, beat the Packers twice, beat the Vikings. There you go. Later in the season, but they got some momentum. Ultimately, they were out of the playoffs at 9-8. But Week 18 was big for them because it was up at Lambeau. The Lions were already eliminated, but the Packers could get in the playoffs with a win. Now, convention. You're thinking that, okay, Dan Campbell could play his backup, see what you got in the young guys, and sort of lay down, right? But the Lions said no. The Lions said, we're out of the playoffs, but we're going to knock the Packers out of the playoffs and set a tone for subsequent years. And that's exactly what they did. They went to Green Bay and they won, knocked the Packers out of the playoffs, and that was like their bowl game, And then the next season they went they went 12-5, I believe. They went to the NFC title game. That was the year they should have won the Super Bowl because they let the Niners come all the way back, and the Lions would have beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. But hopefully that does. Well, actually, hopefully that does come back to haunt them. Yeah. But there were some low moments early in that Lions season. Like they got dusted by the Patriots 29-0. Not even a good Patriots team, Then also they got beat down by the Cowboys 24-6. So they lost to the Dolphins at home. Honestly, after the Dolphins loss, after those 2 beatdowns on the road, you honestly could have seen Dan Campbell get fired, right? And certainly not anything of that realm possibility for the Vikings this year. But it shows that teams can get some momentum going, that teams can turn things around mid-season, and hell for leather, and win, lose, or draw. Like, you can get something, right? And the Vikings in these doldrum now. Like, what's going to stop the Vikings from reeling off 7 in a row? Besides the Vikings, besides themselves, this team is healthy. McCarthy has a modicum of experience now. Kevin O'Connell has the full slate for play calling. Defense is looking good. Special teams, but just get on a run, win a couple games. I know some people will piss and moan about draft picks, but you don't even trust Kwesi to draft anyway, so it doesn't matter. Plus, the Vikings already have their quarterback, so the crown jewel of moving up is sort of whatever at this point. Yeah. Lastly, Derek Triple, were you always going to call the channel Purple for the Win podcast, or were you between any other names? I honestly don't even know how we came up with the name. It just sort of stuck. But I just remember the first episode, week 14 of the 2013 season. It was audio only, and it was we were complaining about the Vikings dropping that thriller in the blizzard out in Baltimore, where it is a boring-ass game for 3 quarters, and all of a sudden, points explosion. And then jumping Joe Flacco marched 80 yards in 45 seconds, no timeouts to hit Marlon Moore for the game-winning touchdown. Not that we're still bitter. So, I don't know. Name-wise, I don't even know where it came from, frankly. But now we're here. So, there you go. Anyways, that's it. Q&A for this beautiful Monday. You guys are the best, to do. Skol, production value.